My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today's topic is titled, Never Ever Settle. This topic comes today because I had a couple conversations with women earlier this week, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, kind of stuck with me, if you will. And I was like, ooh, this is a good topic to talk about. Now, each of these women were in different decades of their life, had different things that they were working through, different struggles, but each of them said, is this it? Is this it? Meaning, is this as good as it gets at this age? Do I just like everybody else looks the same way, or I noticed all my friends are starting to, put on some extra weight. Is this just is what it is? And I mean, it stopped me because I was like, no, like as quickly as they said it, I blurted out, no. And normally I'm pretty quiet because I want to hear what they're saying. I want to hear, what's personally on their mind, why they chose to book this call with me and talk through their health and wellness. And it just came straight out of my mouth, no. And the reason I had such a reaction to that is we can't settle. We can't just say, oh, I'm 40. This is what my body looks like now. Oh, I'm 50. This is what my body looks like now. Oh, I'm 60. And here's the deal. Everyone listening to this knows or has seen those videos of the 80-year-old, 90-year-old grandma in the gym deadlifting, and she's a beast, right? And we've all seen that woman in the gym that we're like, man, she just looks so good. And she's well into her 60s, well into her 70s. And the problem is, and this is where, I want to dig into this, is we have settled in this society. We have settled for this terrible standard that everyone is obese or everyone has a few pounds to lose. And to be genuine, it's not your fault, but it is your fault. And it's not your fault because of all the crap and the stuff that's available. It's in our food. It's ultra addicting. So that piece of it, yes, I gotcha. But I want to wake you up that you never settle. You don't settle in your marriage. You don't settle in your career. You don't settle with your kids and how they're acting. You never settle when it comes to your body, your physique, your health, and how you feel on a daily basis. So where I want to go with you here today is, why did this happen? And the only way that I can describe this is we get comfortable. And the words that I have heard from multiple women is, oh, my husband loves me the way I am. Oh, my husband's fine. He said that, he loves me no matter what I look like. And I'm like, that's a funny one because I'm sure your husband has said that and that's all good. And, kudos to him. But let's just be real. What kind of standard is that setting for your relationship? That we just settle that you've got a few extra pounds, I've got a few extra pounds. You know what? I get it. But on the other hand, why not hold each other to another standard? Why not say, hey, babe, I know you're over there trying and doing these things, me too, but What do we really want collectively? What do we want to see? What do we want from our life? What is the purpose around being in better shape? And there's so many reasons that we can come up with why it makes sense to be in really good shape, to have minimal risk for disease, to age really, really well, take care of yourself, be able to do all the things that you want to do. Nothing is worse as getting into retirement and you have so many diseases and illnesses and surgeries and ailments that you can't even enjoy life. So what's happened? The standards have been so low for so long. I mean, even think about like the seats on planes have gotten bigger to accommodate seats in stadiums have gotten bigger, which is just really an interesting thing that's happened culturally. But now it's like when I walk into a room and let's say it's both my husband and I, typically we are the most fit people and we're not even crazy ripped. We're getting there because that's actually what we both really want, but we're always the people in good shape. And when you look around the room, I'm like, man, this is not very inspiring. I was actually having a conversation with a woman that was here in the Midwest. And she was like, is it just the Midwest? And I go, I'm going to be honest. It's a lot in the Midwest that we are larger in general, but it's a thing across the world, specifically here in the US, that we've just kind of expected it or accepted it, that this is the norm. I think it also goes back to whenever you dine out, for example, you get this huge plate of food that nobody should consume. We were out to dinner the other night and I was watching just different people with their entrees and just kind of looking around and I was like, oh my gosh, is she going to eat all that? And sure enough, she sure did. But here's the thing. It's not your fault that all that food got put on that plate and sat down in front of you. What I think is really terrible is we don't put the calories and the fat and the carbs and the protein on every single meal. Now, I do know that some states, this is a mandate that you do have to put all of that nutritional information on their menus. And I wish that was a standard across so that you could make a better decision. Because what is so challenging is here you are going out to dinner, typically going out to dinner is either we were too tired to cook, maybe it's a celebration, or it's just a chance for you to sit down with your family, your husband, and have a conversation without having to cook the meal, clean the kitchen, do all the things. And so we want to enjoy ourselves. But then now we put this food in front of us and we have no idea how it was cooked, what was used, and just by the sheer quantity that's presented in front of you, because we have to feel like we're getting the bang for our buck. That's definitely something. Or buffets. Those are, I actually hate buffets. Buffets are literally not my jam, but that is part of the problem, is understanding when we need to stop eating, and especially when food is presented in front of you. And for a lot of us, we've grown up in the clean the plate club. So I totally respect and understand this, but it would really be helpful if we actually knew what was being put in front of us so that we could make the most informed decision on how much we can actually consume or should consume. But where I want to segue now in this conversation is we don't need to settle. And it's such a disservice to your life, to your purpose and your calling by settling for anything other than this high level of health, having a really awesome marriage, having amazing kids, having an amazing career, relationships. Everything in your life should be awesome. And now some of you may say, okay, Arin, that's really cool. I'm glad, you got this all figured out. Listen, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm certainly on the pursuit of figuring it all out. And I'm always going to demand a higher standard out of everything. This doesn't mean perfection. To all my type A women, I love you because I am you, but this doesn't mean perfection. but it means that we don't settle and say it is what it is or this is good enough. So what I want with your health journey, with your body journey, specifically speaking about this, is I want you to challenge yourself. Yeah, of course, get the unwanted weight off, and be real with yourself. Look at the scale, look at your height and say, what is an appropriate amount? For most women, they give me a very, very safe number, and they probably have 10, 15 more pounds that honestly need to go. What was interesting is the two women that I was speaking to earlier this week, they told me a very real number. And I was like, you are spot on. This is exactly what the scale should say between this window. And then what's beautiful about that is we get to that number and then we can start playing with our composition. It's really important to drop the fat first, then you can go into recompositioning your body. And this is where I'm here to tell you, women, that is where you're going to fall in love with this process, because you're going to go, oh, sweet, when I add just a little bit more protein, this is how my body looks. This is how I recover. When I put together proper progressive overload in my training, in my workouts, wow, that's how the muscle develops. This is how strong I can feel. This is how good my joints can feel. For anyone struggling with knees or feet or hips, shoulders, you've got to work through, and sometimes you do have to work through some discomfort. Now, this isn't Arin saying, hey, you got pain, push through it. That's not what I'm saying, but we have to focus on strengthening so that we can continue to do things without that pain. The pain is not normal. And the problem is sometimes we have to go all the way back to physical therapy to then build ourselves back up. But here's where I'm going to tell you, if you keep feeling pain over and over and over again, most likely inflammation is coming from food, from alcohol, from lack of sleep, increased cortisol. And so those things all play a huge, huge part. But then also, when you have too much weight, that's also going to attribute. But then here's the other big one that I see. And man, this one's tough because, I can't force anyone to do their workouts. But if you don't consistently do workouts, it's like starting over every time you go to work out. And for anyone who has stopped working out, started working again, you know how sore you get. And that is not normal. That should not be how you feel every single time. There's an appropriate amount of soreness that we will always feel. But this is where I want to speak into, please do not settle. When it comes to your health, it is okay to be ripped, to be strong, to be sexy, to feel so good inside of your skin. And I'm here to tell most women that you're just leaving so much on the table. And I think everyone thinks, oh, it's going to be just as hard as it was to lose, that first 15, 20 plus pounds. It's actually not, because the little tweaks really add up and add up pretty quickly when we've got majority of the adipose tissue or fat tissue off of our body, and we just make tweaks. And honestly, after that, it is truly just time for the body to adapt. I'm sitting here watching myself, and I struggled with this last itty bit, but it's been so fun now to finally get over on the other side of it. And that was just a whole story I was playing in my head, that I needed to struggle this, that, and the other. And when I finally just let it go, as simple as that sounds, it was like, oh, this is actually an enjoyable process. And it just took me letting go of wanting to struggle, if that makes sense. I don't know why any of us want to struggle, but it's almost like we're wearing it as an excuse. And certainly for me, that's what I had to really work through, that I was just filling my head with all these excuses. And, I can't get this off. Of course I can. I just wasn't doing the things consistently enough to get over the edge of the fat loss side and then now into the recompositioning. So please do not settle when it comes to your health. constantly be in this pursuit. We never arrive, if that makes sense. And, I never understood this, especially in business, because I was like, oh, when I hit this number in revenue and this many lives impacted, everything's just perfect. And it was just like, well, actually, there's a lot more we can do. And so this is a constant journey. This is a constant evolution. The same with your career. If your career is stressing you out to the max, if your career is making you want to numb out and drink at night or eat mindlessly on the couch, stay up too late watching Netflix or whatever, you've got to find something different. It is not your passion. It is not your calling, and you do not have to sit in that job the rest of your life. But too many of us stay in that same job because it's easy. And, it's really, if we were saying it truthfully, it's really not as bad. What is interesting running my own business and having employees is I never, ever would ever be okay as a business owner knowing that my employee was so stressed out to the point where they weren't taking care of their health. They, weren't sleeping at night. And I cannot tell you how many women I have coached over the years that are so stressed out over their job. And I'm like, why? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of you being stressed out to the point where you're making yourself sick, you're not getting good sleep, your health is in the trash, all for a paycheck? Like, we can go get a paycheck somewhere else. Or is it we need to better understand that, hey, this problem did come up at work, but you know what? It does not have to come home with me. And we will always figure it out. That's one thing I really want women to understand in the workforce is no matter what problems come up, no matter what challenges you're working through, you're going to figure it out. There's a solution out there, or there's something we haven't considered. And if we would just go into every project, every job, every challenge with, hey, we're going to get this figured out. We may not know today or tomorrow or the next year, but we're going to get this figured out. And to just leave it at that, let it go. Let so much of this stuff that keeps you up at night, just let it go. And you may be like, well, easy for you to say, Arin, you run your own business, and, fine. But again, I chose this, and, it comes with the pros and cons as far as, not knowing some days when the next dollar's coming in, or, all of a sudden you had 4 corporate clients and the pandemic hits and you lose all of that. Literally overnight. There's thousands and thousands of dollars in contracts, things like that happen, but you figure it out. And, was it a blow at the time? For sure. For sure it was a blow, but it also has led us to the path in which we're on here today. So, everything has its silver lining in its moment, but please don't settle in your career. The other thing that I want to speak into is your marriage. You do not need to settle in your marriage. This is not meant for you to go start an argument with your spouse, but it's okay to desire a certain standard for your marriage. And yeah, it does take 2 to tango. It does take 2 people wanting the same things. But if you haven't had a conversation with your husband about the things that you want in your life, the things that he wants in his life, all the way down to finances, homes, cars, vacations, relationship with your kids, in sex, right? Like, we need to be on the same page in all aspects. And it's okay to have a really awesome marriage. And it's okay to just fall in love over and over and over again every single day that you see this person. Now, they may still do the shit that drives you insane, but like whistling, I can't handle whistling. That's, and for some reason, Tony keeps whistling, and I don't know where this came from because he never whistled before, but right now he's whistling, probably because he knows it drives me insane. So there's that. But it's okay to have these conversations. The problem is, in so many women that I talk to, is they don't have the conversation with their husband. They make all these goals for themselves, especially when it comes to weight loss, and then their husband's not on the same page. He's over here eating Doritos or bringing home garbage or bringing home takeout that totally doesn't align with your goals. And what happens? You give in because he brought it home. Obviously, he brought it home, so you don't want to hurt his feelings or whatever the story is. But on the other hand, what if you just said, hey, I'm on this journey. Here's the 3 different places that if we're going to do takeout, or if you're going to go to the grocery store, can you please just not bring this stuff in the house? And here's the deal. If he's not on board, you still got to love him through his journey of being ready to take care of himself. You don't have to wait for him. But what happens is when you start leveling up, when you start taking care of your body, when you start seeing results, and this isn't the next latest, greatest, she's going to do it for 3 weeks and then she's going to fall off the map. And your husband actually sees like, oh crap, like she's really doing it this time. She's changing her life. Oh my God. There is no man on the planet that is not going to get his you-know-what in order with his hot wife, okay? And I'm here to tell you, if you can just have the conversation around, hey, these are the standards and things that we want for our life. I know it's not going to be easy. I know we're going to have to change things, and, you're going to be strong when I'm not, and I'm going to be strong when you're not. And here's how we do this together. Because it's okay to be on the same page with your husband, but what it takes is communication. And that's something that I see women all the time. They just settle in their marriage. They settle in this marriage, and before they know it, they'll wake up. You've been married 20 some years. You got, maybe kids almost out of the house, and you're like, who is this person? Like, why? We're not intimate. We don't even sleep in the same bed half the time. Those are some of the things that it just eats me alive, because, sometimes we do make mistakes. Sometimes we thought this was the person and we tried like hell to make them the person, and they're just not our person. And that is okay. It happens. But if you've done everything you can to work through the things and it's just not working, you got to do what you got to do. You got to take care of yourself. And there is someone that is absolutely meant for you, that's going to be there for you, that's going to connect with you on that deeper level. I've seen this so many times. So this isn't to throw in the towel, because it's worth fighting for. There's a reason you fell in love with this person. But if you have tried multiple times, stop hanging in if it doesn't make sense. Okay. It's going to get messy. It's going to be challenging, but you are strong and you can have a really, really kick-ass marriage and a really great partnership with this person. Not going to be roses every single day by any means. They'll start whistling and it just is like nails on a chalkboard. And then all hell breaks loose. Oh, just kidding. But it can be good, and you can be intimate and love each other and have such a deep connection. And this has taken work. This is not something that Tony and I just naturally clicked from day one. I mean, there's definitely an attraction, but then there's been a lot. I mean, especially working with your partner, there's just been a lot of things that I've had to really navigate, but I wouldn't change any aspect of this. Yes, there are good days. Yes, there are not so good days. The real secret in all of this is the communication and being flexible with each other. That some days I'm a royal you-know-what, and some days he whistles, and that's just not gonna work. Oh man, I hope he doesn't listen to this. So anyways, I wanted to come here today because of listening to a couple women this week saying, maybe this is it. I'm 40 and, this is as good as it gets. Hey, I'm in my 50s and, maybe I should just be okay. I'm not crazy overweight and a lot of my friends are a lot worse. No, do not settle. Do not ever settle for anything. I mean, hell, I won't even settle for crappy water, if that makes you guys laugh. I hope it does. Like I've refilled my water bottle at the gym today, and they clearly need to change their filter. And I am a snob when it comes to water. I mean, when you drink enough of it, you should be, right? and it does matter. But just don't settle. Don't settle. If the steak wasn't cooked correctly, send it back. It's all good, but we don't have to settle for anything in our life. And this isn't just good enough. There should always be a standard. There should always be a goal, something that we're working towards, because this is our purpose. We were created to be infinite. We are truly infinite beings. We are beings that, for whatever reason, we've been taught limitation. We've had to start over as little babies, learn to eat, walk, crawl, go to the bathroom. And for whatever reason, we've had to evolve from that. But there's so much more to this. And there's so much purpose that each of us has. And most of us aren't even hitting a fraction of what we're meant to do in this world. And, if you're curious about kind of where some of this language is coming from, and some of my just like spark from this topic is, think about a person who has had a near-death experience, and they are half in their body, half out, and they're out in their soul, and they come back and they have just this new vision and purpose and drive for life. That's what I want for you without the near-death experience. So but that's what I'm really coming at, because I'm looking at this going, wow, if this person can be, stage 4 cancer, 4 years of struggling, have this out of body experience and come back with so much purpose and drive and share it with the world. Like, what are we doing over here? Like, we didn't have to go through that by no means, but thankfully she was willing to share her story. And this is where I came to this topic, because I was like, man, why are we settling? Why are we settling for things that we don't have to settle for in our life? Your health should not be something you ever settle. Your marriage should never be something you settle. Your career should never, ever. But it starts with you having a standard and understanding what it is that you truly want, what's your purpose, what's your calling, and then taking the action. All right, ladies, go get them.